Hello fellow woodworkers and welcome to this week's edition of the Garage Workshop. This week we're going to be making a rotating storage cart for my drill and bandsaw. Roll the intro. So this week I would like to try and do something that I've never done before. You've seen in my previous videos where I've made storage carts and I've made the wood storage on the wall, but I've never really made anything that has been trolley-like, that has involved another process. Now, on my workbench, as you'll know, I'm having a little bit of a tidy round. On my workbench, I've got these two items, my pillar drill and my bandsaw. I don't use either of these items a lot, I have to be honest. My pillar drill, I probably only used it 3 or 4 times in the 2 years I've had it. And my bandsaw, I tend to only use every now and then. I think I probably only used that a few times since I've had it. But obviously they are nice, important bits of kit to have. And there are times when you think, oh, I could really do with that. And you've got them there. But I think they're taking up too much space on the bench. So what I'm going to work on is making a flip top cart where I can have either my bandsaw or my pillar drill all set up and ready to go. So I've got an idea in my mind of how I would like it to look. Here's a little picture, excuse the drawing. Let's see if we can put it all together. So as with most of my projects, the absolute key to this design, if you can even call it a design really, was really accurate measurements. And I actually did this twice. I'm obviously not going to show you 2 lots of measuring because that would be intergalactically dull. But I did actually measure both of these twice because getting the clearance in the rotation is the most important part of this. The storage cart height is going to be strictly determined by how tall the tallest piece of equipment is. And if you look, with these 2 particular ones, the Titan Bandsaw on the left-hand side of the picture is not only taller than the Aldi, the Ferex drill press, but it's also wider because obviously it's got the fence and the actual sort of cutting plate area. So I was very careful to get that exactly right. I then went to the scrap pile and got these 2 pieces of wood, and I measured the bottom of the caster just so I had an idea of how big the entire unit was going to be, because I wanted it just around the same height as my bench, which I think was about 70 centimetres. But I also wanted to make sure that I had included the height of the casters, which I've not done on previous projects and had to sort of rethink it. I then took the wood over to the miter saw, and these are just 2 bits of soft wood that I got from Wix. I think I got these from. They're quite nice quality, to be fair, but I just wanted to make sure that I'd got them exactly the right length. So once I'd done the 2 sort of lengths on the main part, I then went over to the wood pile again, and this time I was looking for some wood that I could potentially use as a sort of cross member. As you can see, I've got lots and lots of pieces of wood, some from leftover, chicken build takedowns and all sorts of stuff. But I found that I had enough wood that was roughly the right size. It's this sort of square-shaped wood. So I'd had enough. I got enough for all of the bits I needed. I measured them out really carefully, more carefully than I normally do. I am a bit haphazard, as you've probably noticed. But I laid them all out and I got the final size. And when I did that, I was happy with what they were. The next thing I did, I just put some marks on to do the pocket holes, and here is one of the very famous Garage Workshop pocket hole segments, of which I have a lot in my videos. So I did the pocket holes, and I really took my time and made sure that these pocket holes were absolutely quality in terms of how they were drilled. I think I mentioned it in this video later on, but I've just started using this Titebond glue. I think it's an American product, and this stuff is amazing. I mean, it's not the cheapest wood glue. You can get wood glue a lot cheaper than this, but it really sticks super well. So I made sure I had the right angle, and I just literally hooked it together. Had a little bit of a tear out there, you can see, but to be honest, that wasn't an issue because that's going to be on the inside anyway. So I continued to use my finger to spread the glue. I must get a glue spreader at some point. And then I just hooked it all together so I had a frame. So when I'd done the first frame and I was happy for it, I just knocked together the second frame. And again, you can see I have to use recycled wood from the wood pile here. You can't underestimate the importance of having good clamps. These aren't really high quality ones. They're just Screwfix Magnuson, I think they're called. And I think they're like a rip-off of the Jorgensen ones, but they're really, really nice clamps, particularly these longer sash clamps. They're really, really good for holding the wood together. Not that it needed it with this glue, to be honest. This was more the process of keeping it straight as much as possible. And again, I know I've got different color pieces of wood here, but things like that really don't worry me, particularly as the majority of this is going to be covered anyway. You're not going to see it. And as you'll see later in the second part of this video, I was able to sort of cap the top so you don't see any of that red wood, which was part of my old chicken coop that I recycled. But I hooked it all together, and I was really keen that it was as straight as possible, hence taking the time to do this, because I really, really wanted to make sure that this structure was going to be straight. Obviously, in this project, this is the key structure because it's going to be obviously slightly weakened by the fact that it's sort of on the side and there's no cross member. But hopefully I've sort of got around that at the end, which you'll see in the second part of this video. Sorry, this video is two-parted because there was so much to do on this project. The next stage was more pocket holes. Of course, I do enjoy doing pocket holes. Something quite satisfying about it. I know it's weird. And then I began the process of putting the struts across to put the frame together. Now, I was very careful how I did this, and as you can see, I could have done this all in one go, but I chose not to. I wanted the sort of side support struts in first, and I wanted to get them nice and securely clamped and nice and straight, which I did eventually manage to do. I wanted to get them in first, make sure they were nice and straight, and then, as you can see, then it allowed me to add the other section. And I also didn't do both at a time. I put the other one in there, you can see, but I didn't hook it up straight away like I'd done the first one. I could have attached it the other side. I wanted to get sort of 3/4 of this in first to make sure that I was happy with how it looked and that it was square. And then I hooked in the last section, which I did, and I was really pleased. I'm not sure if I caught it on camera, but I checked all the angles with my roofer square and everything was absolutely perfect, so I was really, really pleased about that. The next stage was just to duplicate the process that I'd done on the bottom bit at the top, but these are only temporary fixes. They're just sort of temporary buttons really, because obviously that's where the cabinet's going to rotate. The next thing I did, I got these pieces of hardwood. I got these, I think I've taken these off one of the bits of wood that came out of that caravan that I recycled, and I just wanted to put them in the sides to make them more rigid because obviously they're very, very flexible at the moment, and I didn't want them to stay that way. So I just hooked some pocket holes in them and then laid it down, and then I attached them inside, and actually it was amazing how much strength that sort of cross brace gave me. So I put in another bracket, another brace at the top to make it doubly secure. So I was really, really pleased with how strong it felt when I'd hooked them all together. I should also say I used my impact driver for doing up all the screws on this. I did start off by using my little handheld Parkside, but it just wasn't up to the job at all. So I then went back to the wood pile to select some woods that were going to form the sides of the unit and the bottom. I found this old piece that I'd recycled from a caravan and a nice chunk of 18mm, almost pristine MDF. I did slightly cheat here because I measured around the shape that I'd actually made rather than using my measurements. But as you'll see in a second, luckily it worked out okay, and I had actually measured it really, really nicely. When I offered it up, I cut it, and some funny flappy thing happened there. I hadn't cut all the way through the wood, despite the fact that the plunge saw was set deeper than the wood. I then popped in some holes in all of the sides and all of the corners, pre-drilled, and then countersunk all of them. Not that I'm going screw mad on this, but I just wanted to make sure there was enough rigidity in it when it was put together. I then offered it up, and it looked all right. I put it on here, and this is where I knew the measurements were right because I twisted it both sides, and it fitted really, really well on both sides. So I just clamped it down and popped in some screws just to make sure it was nice and sturdy and that there was nothing to worry about. And you can see it's moving around a bit, but that's more the garage floor than the wonkiness of the unit. The next thing I did was select a couple more bits of MDF and cut out some more sort of side supports. Now, I did this very, very deliberately, and the reason why it's very deliberate is because it's a future-proof really, because at some point I think I might like to put a drawer unit in the bottom of this rotating storage cart. So I put them in there, and that's what the drawer runners will attach to. As you can see, it's a very good fit. I had to sort of bash it in a little bit with my Thor hammer to get it a little bit smaller, and then I just pocket hold it and just dropped it in. But this is, if I do put a drawing in the future, this is where I'm going to attach the runners. So I thought it'll help with the strength. Might as well put it in now rather than try and fiddle around and put it in later. So I'm actually thinking ahead, which is really, really not like me. So it shows I'm learning, you know, with a bit of luck. So when I put it in, it was all nice and level as well, which is one of the other things. It was nice to see it was all even. Took a while getting the screws in, I'm not going to lie. That one of those uprights was really tough. But I got there in the end, popped them all in. And then just a very, very thin piece of plywood that I cut out just to go on the bottom. A, for cosmetic reasons, because I think that looks horrible. And B, if I do put a drawing in a future use, future time, it will just look a lot better. I just popped it in with a few brad nails. I then went back to the MDF that I'd selected from my wood pile and cut it to the right length. Now I did leave a lip, you can see here, I did measure and leave enough for a lip of MDF just to sort of cover the size as me just testing that it works. Then I got the right measurement and just popped off the side, and then I pre-drilled and countersunk all of the screw holes for the side. Again, very organised of me, you know, it's better quality than my usual builds, I have to say. And then getting it in place, you can't see it from this angle, but I've just got the strip that side, and I've just attached it so that I can make sure the level is right on both sides. Obviously, I cut the piece of wood big enough to allow for the two sort of facing edging strips. So there was an overhang on both sides. So when I was happy it was in the right place, then I drilled all the way through. I didn't want to split any wood here, so I pre-drilled everything and countersunk everything. So I attached the side. I was pleased, and actually when I picked it up I was really surprised at how rigid it was. Obviously that's the design and it's meant to be like that, but it's still nice. And then I hooked it into the bottom panel as well, so it was even more rigid. Then I did the next side and I cut the edging strip. You can see it a little bit clearer, the process there, and you can see at the back it's overhanging to allow for that edging strip as well. So got all of that hooked up. Really, really pleased with how straight it was, and obviously how rigid it had made the structure. And I was really motoring along then. Oh, there's chicken. So the next thing I did was cut up and run out of that wood that was exactly that size. So I cut up another strip and I sanded it down ready for installing. Having cut it to the right side on the miter saw, I just took my time and knocked off or knocked back with the sanding paper the sort of rough edges that were in the middle of the cut on the table saw. It took a bit of going, as you can see, to get it sort of flat and smooth, because there were just a lot of little hitchy bits. And this wood that I've cut is going to be the sort of inside tray that everything's going to be attached to, the bit that's going to actually rotate. And again, I wanted to use the same width of wood as I'd got for the top, those red pieces of wood that you saw earlier. So I took my time and I made sure that these were exactly the right size. It is recycled wood, you can see from that pocket hole, but I hooked it up and put some new pocket holes in it. I then offered it up using a clamp to keep the edges secure. I then just hooked it together again, all three sides, as you can see. I just put that brace in the middle there very specifically. I tried to do something very, very clever here, and I'll let you be the judge of whether I got away with it or not. I think I did. I also decided to change the camera angle here, which I thought worked out quite well. It looks quite good. So bearing in mind, those two pieces of wood that you just saw me clamp are now together. The one on the top there you can see, and there's another one underneath it, which obviously you can't see. So I marked the exact middle of where it was going to be in terms of the length of the wood, and then I marked the middle in terms of the width of the wood. And obviously this was to get an exact sort of dead center mark, which is where I was going to begin drilling the hole that the metal pole would thread through. To be 100% honest, I wasn't sure this was actually going to work, but it did. And as you can see, I've got the drill pretty much mostly straight all the way through the cut that went through the top and then through the bottom. So I just managed to get the drill sort of exactly where I wanted it to be. So it had made a mark on the bottom section, which you can see there, and then I just finished it off. But it worked really, really well. And when I put it together, when I hooked it together in a minute, you'll see it exactly went through the right hole. It was on a slight angle at first, so I just put the drill in and rotated it a bit to get it straight, get it on the right angle, which it was. But I was pleased with how it had come out, because it's not an easy thing to do that. And actually having a little bit of sort of wiggle room wasn't the end of the world, because it does give the pole a little bit of movement inside, and actually the pole squeaks a bit, so it obviously was tight enough. I then offered it up, quite nervous, I'm not going to lie at this bit, to make sure it was the right height on both sides, and very pleased when I rotated it and it worked perfectly. I was very chuffed. I then began the slightly more difficult process of drilling the equivalent holes in the side of the cabinet. And having got to the end of day one, I did sort of reflect on it, and what I could have done probably was get all 4 pieces of wood together before I'd made the actual cabinet, got all 4 pieces together and drilled the holes then. But to be 100% honest with you, that didn't really occur to me, because in my mind I was always going to make the cabinet first, and then I was going to make the sort of rotating bit, and it didn't turn out too bad. The only bad bit here was there was a bit of a tear out on the wood on the side, which was unfortunate, but to be honest with you, it was only on one side and not the other. And you know, this is not a perfect woodworking channel. You are going to make mistakes. You can see the mistakes I've made, and you probably would have looked at that and thought, oh, there'll be some tear out on there. And you're right. I mean, you can see it in that picture. There's only a tiny little bit, to be honest. It isn't that bad at all, and you know, definitely something I could live with. But what I had to do obviously was unhook the side braces just to make sure it fit, and then I fed through the pole, and luckily it worked really well. So I just clamped it straight. I then hooked the whole thing together in a sort of dry fit to see how it looked, and I was pleased. I had a nice gap between the sides. Obviously the sides of the cabinet sort of came in a little bit, so that will be sorted in a minute with some little split pins. But in the first instance, it was really, really good. It sort of the sides came in a bit, but I knew that wouldn't be an issue. So I then marked up and drilled some very small holes. They were like 1 mil or 2 mil holes to put the split pins in. So I did that on both sides before getting out the reciprocating saw to cut the tube down to the right length. I wanted to do something that would give me the sort of cleanest cut. I didn't want to use a table saw or my mitre saw, which it did. And then I just used a file and tidied everything up, tidied all the ends up, so there was no bits of metal sticking out anywhere, and it was completely smooth and flush all the way around. I then offered it up again with the pole being the correct size and put it through, and really pleased that the holes I'd marked had given enough clearance. As you can see, I just slid the split pins in. That was very difficult. It looks quite easy on here, and obviously the video is speeded up, but it took quite a long time to get them in. And actually off camera, I just took some time with a pair of pliers underneath and reopened the pins on one side, because they weren't very wide open. You can see there, it's just a little bit of a struggle getting it in. But it got there, and it rotated, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do. So very, very pleased with how that looked. And I then took the whole thing apart, having just assembled it to create that middle piece. I also just tried it the other way around here to see if it made any difference. And to be honest, it was slightly better this side, but only a little bit. But that section that you can see in the middle is the section that's actually going to hold both bits. So obviously it's going to need a heck of a lot of reinforcing, and that's what we'll do in part 2. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please tune in next week for the end of this project and see how it turns out. Thanks for watching.